Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we're gonna solve assignment number 2. So assignment number 2 is asking about creating this GUI. As you can see, it says name and email reader. So you're supposed to type your first name, last name, and email address, and then you have a button that says save and display. When you click on the button save and display, it should have a greetings like hello and your full name, and it will also display your email address. The details are given here as well. So let's get started with the coding, and we'll be trying to do the same thing that you see here, but obviously you are allowed to make improvements, but this is the thing that we're gonna start creating. So first we're gonna have a label. We're gonna see how many labels we need. As you can see, if we annotate here, I'm gonna need a label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can create 6, or I can create one label to display both of them. So it's up to you whether you want to create 2 or 1. Let's see what is best to do. All right, let's go to my coding space. So first, the usual stuff. You're gonna import Tkinter as tk. You're gonna have your main application window, which is by using the tk class. And finally, you're gonna have your main loop. And now we will start doing the GUI. So first, a label that says name and email reader. So let's create that first. And let's call this title, for example. So tk.Label root, and the text is going to be name and email reader. Okay, name and email reader. You can pack them at the end, or you can pack them now. I usually prefer to pack them at the end, so let's do that way. So first I created the title. Next, I need to have a label for type your first name. So let's do that. I'm gonna call this first name label. Remember, we're gonna use meaningful name. So by reading the variable name, it's easy to understand what is this label for. So you get a label, root text, type your first name. And then what we can do is you can copy this, or you can type this again. And instead of first name, I'm gonna call this last name label. And type the last name. So I got my first name, last name, and the next thing we need to have your email address. So let's do this again. And then this one is email label. And then I also need to have the label for displaying my name and email address. So I'm going to create an empty label. So let's call this display label. First, let's just copy and paste. And I'm going to call this display label. And the display label should be left empty because we need to update the label once the user clicks the button. Now I need to have, I created all the labels. Now I need to create the entries, 1, 2, 3 entries. So let's create them. So I'm going to call this first name entry. The tk.Entry root. So that's my first name entry. I'm going to now copy this. And this one will be my last name entry. Then I need to have one for the email entry. Email entry is done. Now I need the button that says save and display. Let's create that button. So let's call this save button. The tk.Button root. Actually, it's going to be save display. Okay, so that's what we want. Now I need to pack everything. So remember, when you're packing them, you want to make sure you maintain the order. First name first, first name entry, last name entry, email label, email entry, then save button, and then the display label. So this is the order we're going to maintain to pack them. So packing is going to be down here. So first name label, pack. Then we have first name entry.pack. Then we have last name label first. And last name entry pack. And then email label pack. And email entry pack. Then we have our save button pack. And then we have our display label pack. Done all the packings. So all the widgets. So this is where we created all the widgets. Oh, I think I forgot to pack the title. Okay, so I think I packed everything right. So let's just see if everything looks right. Okay, so name and email reader, type your first name, then we have everything. One thing you will notice that after name and email, I have a empty space there. So I can do this by adding a \n right here, which will add that empty space, which you can see now. Okay. All right, so we are done with all the widgets that we need. The display label is also there. All I have to do is now create a function to read the data from the first name entry, last name entry. Oh, I think I see there is something wrong. I did not change the email label text. So let's go ahead and change it. So email label, you can see that I forgot to change this. So I'm going to say type your email. There you go. Let's just double check. So type your first name, last name, email, and then save and display. Okay, so now function. Function to read and save all the details on the entries. So we have 3 entries. So you're going to read all the information using this function. So def, let's call this read data. So here you're going to start reading the data from your first name, last name, and email. So let's call a variable called first name. And this is going to come from the first name entry. So the command, if you guys remember, is .get, which will read whatever you're going to type in the first name entry and save it in a variable called first name. Then let's create another variable. Let's call this last name. And this time we're gonna read data from the last name entry. Then let's create a variable called email. And this time we're gonna read data from the email entry. So we read all the information. Now, if you remember, once you are done reading the data, you need to pass this information to the display label, which we will also do in the same function. So we'll read the data and pass it to our display label. So how do we do this? If you remember this from the previous videos, you know that you have to now do changes to your display label. So to make changes to the display label, you have to do display label.config. So what you are configuring, you're configuring the text. Remember, the text is initially empty string. So there is nothing there. Now you are making changes. So now the text will say hello and should have your full name in there. So first we need to print hello, which is our string. You can put a comma and a space, then plus. First we're going to do the first name so that it'll show you your first name, and then plus the last name. However, if you do this way, there will be no space between your first name and last name, which is why I need to also add empty space by adding an empty string in there so that you'll have a space between your first name and last name. After adding your first name and last name, let's just check quickly if this is working correctly. So if I type initials just to see what it does. Oh, it's not going to do anything because we need to pass this function to the button. So let's first fix the email too, because we also need to display the email too. And it's in the next line. So what we can do is I can create a string with a \n, which will allow you to go to the new line. And here you can say email. What is the email? That's the, let's add a space here, plus that email. So what's happening here, the \n will let you go to the next line and have this string email with a space, plus whatever the email you typed in the email entry. So that's our function. So function to read and save all the details from the entries. And here, I'm gonna add a comment. Pass the details to the display label. So the display label will have all this information. However, the function is not gonna work. Remember, function is a block of code that will only work when you call this or attach this to the save and display button. So now, pass the function to the button. Remember, you're gonna only see your name when you click the button save and display, which is why you need to attach this function to your save button. So you're gonna call the save button .config because again, you are updating something on that button. To pass a function, if you remember, you have to write the word command equal to the name of function, which is read data. Be careful that you don't need to use the parentheses here, just the name of the function. And also be careful, this should start here because all these lines are indented, meaning that they're part of these function read data, but the save button is not part of the function because the save button is going to have the function. Okay, so this is not part of the function. So be careful that this one must be written outside of the function. You'll also notice there is an arrow. If I close this, it's going to hide all the code that belongs to the function. So you can see the save button doesn't belong to the function. If you expand it, you will see all the code. Okay, so now it's time to test our final code just to make sure everything is working correctly. So I'm going to type my name, first name, last name, and my email address. Let's call this @mail.com. So click the button, save and display. And you can see it prints my name, hello. Then it also shows my email address, whatever I type here. If you want to add an exclamation sign after your name, you can do this after the last name using another string. You can do this way. And then you can create the new line there. So now, if you run it, so typing my name and my email address, email.com, and I can see that exclamation has been added. Okay. So that's all about assignment number 2. I hope this makes sense. I will paste this code so that you guys can take a look. All right, guys, thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.